You wake up before dawn, and the first thing you feel is the ache. Not from a wound, but from training. The kind that lives deep in your shoulders and refuses to leave. The room around you is small, barely wider than the straw mattress you're lying on, and the walls are stone. You can hear it before you can see anything. Snoring, coughing, someone praying quietly in a language you don't recognize. Dozens of men packed into cells like this one, all of them waking to the same realization you are. Today is the day you fight. Welcome to your life as a Roman gladiator. And if it's any comfort, statistically, you have a decent chance of seeing tomorrow, just not a guaranteed one. Let's get one thing out of the way, because Hollywood has lied to you for decades. Gladiators did not march into the arena every week to be slaughtered by the dozen for laughs. That image of constant carnage and certain death sells movie tickets, but it doesn't match what the Romans actually did. Gladiators were expensive. Training one took months, sometimes years. Feeding, housing, and treating them cost a fortune. The man who owned you, called a lanista, ran what was essentially a business, and businesses don't enjoy destroying their own inventory for free. So while the arena was genuinely dangerous and people absolutely died there, the goal on most fight days was not your death. It was your performance, which, depending on how you look at it, is either reassuring or deeply unsettling. You sit up. Your name, your real name, the one you had before all this, hardly matters now. Maybe you were a prisoner of war, captured on some frontier and sold into the games. Maybe you were a criminal, condemned to the arena instead of execution. Or maybe, and this is the strange part, you volunteered. Yes, free Roman men sometimes signed up for this willingly. They were called auctorati, and they swore a brutal oath, agreeing to be burned, bound, beaten, and killed by the sword. Why would anyone choose that? Money, fame, debt. The same reasons people make questionable decisions today, just with significantly higher stakes. Some of these volunteers became genuine celebrities. Their faces appeared on oil lamps and pottery. Roman women supposedly swooned over them. There's graffiti preserved in Pompeii calling one gladiator the man the girls sigh for. He was a hairdresser before this. The arena did strange things to a man's reputation. Breakfast arrives, and it's not what you'd expect from elite athletes. It's barley. Lots of barley, along with beans. So much of it, in fact, that gladiators had a nickname. They were called hordearii, which roughly translates to barley men. This wasn't an accident or cheapness. The diet was designed. Modern analysis of gladiator bones found at a cemetery in Ephesus revealed something fascinating. These men were carbohydrate-loaded and carrying a deliberate layer of fat. Not because anyone wanted them slow, but because that fat protected them. A layer of subcutaneous fat over the muscle meant that a slashing blow might cut the surface and bleed dramatically, looking horrifying to the crowd, without actually severing the muscle or hitting anything vital underneath. You were, in essence, built with your own armor of flesh. The blood looked spectacular. The wound was survivable. The Romans understood showmanship at a level that's honestly a little disturbing. Those same bones revealed something else. The gladiators drank a tonic made from plant ash and vinegar, a kind of ancient sports drink rich in calcium, probably to strengthen bones and help recovery after the bruising of constant training. So before you even step into the arena, you've been fed, conditioned, and chemically maintained like a prized animal, which, in the eyes of Roman society, is more or less what you are. A gladiator occupied one of the lowest social ranks imaginable. Legally, you were infamous, stripped of the rights ordinary citizens took for granted, and yet you could be adored by tens of thousands of people screaming your name, held in contempt and worshipped at the same time. The Romans were nothing if not contradictory. The morning is spent in final preparation. You're not fighting until the afternoon, because the day's entertainment follows a strict order, and gladiators are the main event. They don't waste the headliner on the opening act. The morning belongs to the beast hunts, men fighting exotic animals dragged in from across the empire, lions, leopards, bears, creatures most Romans had never seen alive. Around midday come the executions of condemned criminals, a grim intermission that the more sophisticated spectators often skipped, heading out for lunch. The philosopher Seneca once watched these midday killings and left utterly horrified, writing that he came home more cruel, less human, simply from having been among the crowd. He understood something uncomfortable. The violence didn't just affect the men in the sand, it changed the people watching. But you don't think about that. You think about your weapon, your armor, and the man you'll be facing. Because here's something else the movies get wrong. Gladiators weren't generic warriors flailing with swords. They were specialists, trained in distinct fighting styles, each a different class with its own equipment, its own strengths, its own glaring weaknesses. And the entire spectacle was built around matching these types against each other like a deadly game of rock, paper, scissors. Maybe you're a Murmillo, heavily armored, carrying a tall shield and a short stabbing sword, with a helmet crowned by a fish-like crest. You're a wall of metal, slow but nearly impenetrable. Your natural enemy is the Retiarius, the Netman, and he is everything you are not. He wears almost no armor at all. He's fast, exposed, and terrifyingly unpredictable, armed with a weighted net, a three-pronged trident, and a small dagger. The whole drama of your fight is written into your equipment. You are the heavily defended fish. He is the fisherman trying to catch you. If he tangles you in that net, your armor becomes a trap, dragging you down. If you close the distance and get inside his reach, his lack of protection becomes a death sentence. Every pairing told a story before a single blow was struck. The crowd knew the matchups the way modern fans know their sports rivalries. Now it's afternoon. The roar above you is constant, a sound you feel in your chest. The Colosseum, if that's where you are, holds around 50,000 people, and right now most of them are watching the sand, waiting. You're led up through the corridors beneath the arena floor, past the wooden lifts and trap doors that could send animals and fighters rising up into the light as if from nowhere. The Romans had stagecraft that wouldn't look out of place in a modern theater. Then the gate opens, and the daylight hits you, and the noise becomes overwhelming. You raise your weapon. There's a phrase everyone thinks gladiators shouted at this moment, that famous line about those who are about to die saluting the emperor. Here's the truth. That was said exactly once that we know of, and not by gladiators at all, but by condemned men staged in a mock naval battle under the emperor Claudius. It was never a standard gladiator greeting, so if you were planning to say it, don't. You'd just be repeating a historical misquote in front of 50,000 people. The fight begins, and it is fast, and it is loud, and it is governed by rules. This surprises people. There were referees in the arena, called the Summa Rudis, carrying long staffs, and they could stop the action, enforce the rules, and separate fighters. This wasn't a chaotic brawl. It was a regulated combat sport with officials, much closer to a brutal championship match than a massacre. You and your opponent circle, testing, striking, the crowd reacting to every movement. A good gladiator didn't just survive, he performed. He gave the audience courage, skill, and drama, because the crowd's favor could quite literally save his life. Because eventually, one of you falters. Let's say it's you. A blow gets through, your leg buckles, and suddenly you're on the ground, your opponent's blade close, the referee stepping in. The fight pauses. And now comes the moment everyone remembers, the thumbs. A defeated gladiator who fought well could appeal for mercy, raising a finger to ask that his life be spared. The decision often fell to the person hosting the games, frequently watching the crowd to read their mood. And here's where another myth crumbles. We genuinely aren't certain which gesture meant life and which meant death. The popular image of thumbs down for death and thumbs up for life is a guess, popularized by a famous painting in the 1870s. The Roman sources mention a turned thumb, but never clearly explain which direction meant what. We've been confidently misreading a hand signal for over a century. If mercy is granted, you live to fight another day, your reputation perhaps even enhanced by the courage you showed in defeat. If it isn't, the end was expected to come with a strange, grim dignity. The defeated gladiator was supposed to accept the killing blow without flinching, kneeling and steadying himself, even guiding his opponent's blade. To die well was the final performance, the last thing a gladiator could control. Many won their freedom instead. A successful gladiator could be awarded the rudis, a wooden sword symbolizing release from the arena. Some survived dozens of fights. Some grew old. The skeleton evidence shows men with healed wounds, injuries treated by doctors, including the famous physician Galen, who learned much of his anatomy patching up gladiators and called the arena his window into the human body. But let's say today, you live. The gate opens again, and you're led back down into the dark beneath the arena, the roar fading behind you, your hands shaking now that it's over. You'll be fed, your wounds will be cleaned and stitched, and tomorrow you'll train again, because there will always be another fight day. The strangest part of all this isn't the violence, it's how organized it was. The diets, the doctors, the referees, the specialized weapons, the careful matchups, the business of it. The Romans turned death into a sport, complete with celebrities and fan graffiti and merchandise, and then convinced themselves it was perfectly civilized. The games would continue for centuries until shifting values and a changing empire finally brought them to an end. But for the men who lived it, the experience came down to a single repeating day. You wake before dawn, your shoulders ache, you eat your barley, and you walk out into the light, hoping that today your performance is good enough to earn you one more sunrise. Most days, against the odds, it was.